Today we're going to paint a foil covered candy kiss. And a lot of times people, when they're painting a shiny object, it's smooth. So the challenge of this shiny object is that it's got a crinkly and wrinkled up surface. So let's get started. At least it's a very simple object. It's basically like a triangle with a little tag on the very top of it. And I am doing it on a oil painting paper that I already have one coat of just a base color, and then I'm using a Copic marker in a gray color because I usually would do it with paint, but I don't have the proper brush that I like for drawing or sketching. So and then I'm just going to put a horizon line back there. Make sure that you make the bottom of your kiss is rounded enough so that it has that three-dimensional effect. And then we're going to use a very limited palette, no yellow or red, but I do have this is a Quinacridone Gold Brown, which is pretty orangey actually out of the tube. And then I have a Payne's Gray, which is very dark, and then some sort of German Earth, I think, which is very granular. So, and it's very flat. Actually, the Payne's Gray is darker because it's more transparent. And then I've got cerulean blue, and that's going to be like the blue in the Candy Kiss, and then a lot of the cool tones. And I have two whites, zinc white and titanium white. So again, no yellow or red, although you could use those to make and mix lots of really cool grays with those, but I'm just keeping it simple. And so I have three whites, but the last two, a lot of times I'll separate my whites just to have separate piles that don't get other colors mixed into them, so it just keeps them clean. Okay, so the main thing is you're going to have, maybe you saw that value scale I had. That's super helpful for something like this because this is like silver on a white surface. And so the the values can play tricks with you, and I'd say the values are the most important part of this exercise, is to make sure that you get the values right. And if you ever are confused, to just check your value finder and find what value it's matching closest to for that section. You can there's like a little cutout circle, and there's different ones, but mine has a circle. It might have a square or just like a notch in it. But use that to isolate that area and see which value it matches, and then make sure your paint's that same value. And just keep matching back and forth. And that's probably the best thing about this exercise. And then the other thing is just to notice your light source. So I have two actually. There's two light sources. One's overhead lighting, so that it's not the ideal setup for a still life. And then I have natural light coming in from both my right and side and behind me through the windows. And this is a garden level studio, so the lights are up, the outside windows are kind of on the top half of the wall. So it's kind of high, the lights coming in pretty high. Yeah, the lighting is definitely, for a shiny object like this, it could be more dramatic than it is. So you might want to try it both ways, maybe with like softer light or two light sources like I'm doing, and then do it again with a harsh light that's coming in from one side, because that's going to be a lot more dramatic. But the exercise is still the same. One, you just have a higher contrast with one. And so I'm just mixing up piles right now in different values, and a lot of blues. And then there's some of the warmer tones, like you said. There's the value finder I was talking about. Okay, so I put a little bit of the dark paint, and this is very exaggerated, around the base of the kiss, and then you just start laying down some of the mid-tone values. And what I really think is, I think this kiss is actually easier than starting with something that's smooth and shiny like silver. like a silver bowl or something, because with that you have, it's almost like the difference between painting a, a tree and a portrait of a young child, where you have like really smooth skin and like these very shiny eyes, and you need to get all that like really perfect, versus a tree with like lots of leafy branches, and if it's not perfect you'll still know it's a tree. And the same with this kiss. If a part's not perfect, people are still going to get the idea. So that's why I think it's great for people that haven't painted something that's silver or shiny, reflective before. Okay, so plus it's just small and simple. So I'm just observing the kiss and going in and putting in tones that match that part of the kiss. So there's shadow areas, and then there's highlights, and then there's reflective areas. And I don't know if you can see, but the on the left side where that really bright shiny spot is, that it's actually reflecting light onto the surface. So I will go back and add that later on. So here I'm just using the value finder to just check the values. And for the value finder, this is grayscale. So you just ignore the color part of it and just focus on it matching the value, which is the dark to the light. So like white to black, or any of the grays in between. Okay, so that's all I'm doing. And then there is an area, so you do want to capture all the reflections. And so uh, around the base, there's a lot of reflecting of the white. And if you had a different color, if you place this on, say, like a pink or a purple, then you'd have maybe some purple reflecting onto your Candy Kiss, and you would want to add that. But since I'm using plain white, that's why I can use this limited palette. But if you have like a green, or I would probably for this exercise keep it simple. Don't put like a floral uh, tablecloth down for your first go at this, at least, because that's all going to be reflecting back into your foil. Okay, so I know that it's not blue, the table. It's more of a creamy color, but um, I'm just trying to get the value right and make sure that the kiss is standing out properly. And this is kind of also, so that softened those last few brush strokes softened the shadow area because it was way too harsh. And then the background, I was going to say, it's not really, you can see that it doesn't end, the table doesn't end right where I put my horizon line. I just wanted to have one in the picture instead of it just being the Candy Kiss. That would help it just with the three-dimensional effect that I'm trying to get in the different planes. So making a horizon line just, it gives it a little more depth. Okay, so again, just working on getting some of the reflective areas, and since there's so many little like nuances, like nooks and crannies, it's okay to just mix right with your brush the colors you're needing. And it's mostly, again, like I said, about the values more than the color, whether it's warm or cool even. Sometimes that matters, but in this case, um, I'm just using both, I think, fairly randomly. Again, I focus mostly on the values. And then, because the foil is silver and it's going to reflect all the colors around it. All right, so this is my titanium white, and I'm just going at it, trying to get my brightest highlights now. And that wasn't mixed properly enough, so I'm going to go in there even more, and there we go. All right, just adding the highlights last because they're really thick and they sit right on top. I usually work in a few midtones, and then I go back and do most of my darks and then add lights over the top. All right, so yeah, now that you've got most of the color down, you got the whole thing covered up, you can go in and add some detail. Right there is where the foil unfolds. It's like the edge of the foil. It's right under the tag, I think, so you can't really see it in this video, but that's where I decided to make sure that detail is included in the kiss, the foil kiss, that you can see that little opening there. All right, just some last detail work. Seems like a lot of things in life, the final details take the most time. But don't give up yet. This is important. So now I'm just adding in some like lower level highlights, and kind of squinting my eyes as I do it to just focus on the values of this kiss. And then signing my name randomly. And then after I remove the tape, this is like washi tape, in the bottom corner I add a little more paint just because it was like a very harsh triangle. The other three corners I left as is because as you can see, they look more natural. This one at the top looks like it's a little, yeah, if you didn't know better, you might not know that they were tape lines. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful, and leave any questions below.